and Reconciliation Council. Other activities which have been undertaken cover the following: the facilitation of the drafting of the Zimbabwe Political Parties Code of Conduct in close liaison with the Secretaries General of the three political parties and the Global Political Agreement. This is currently under active consideration before signing, where it is intended to regulate as well as influence the behavior of respective political parties' leadership, members, and supporters through internal disciplinary, missionary, and moral suasion. Recommendations were also made for the incorporation of the National Peace and Reconciliation Council into the draft constitution. And lastly, influencing the holding of the anti-violence peace indaba held in November 2011 between the three political parties in the Global Political Agreement at the Rainbow Towers Conference in Harare. And also, the ONHRI has been able to facilitate joint meeting of the ZANU-PF's Politburo and the MDC Formation's National Executive Committees. In addition to all this, and considering the various challenges that characterize Zimbabwe's political, socio-economic environment, the government, through the Organ for National Healing, Reconciliation and Integration, is now focusing on locally generated national efforts aimed at developing decisive measures and mechanisms that can strengthen national institutions in conflict resolution and prevention. Among such efforts is the traditional mechanisms, approaches, and systems for peace building, conflict resolution, and reconciliation, which is being pursued in partnership with the Chiefs Council and the academia. I was happy to note during the discussions this afternoon in both presentations by a representative of Rwanda and Uganda that the traditional mechanisms of resolving conflict took center stage. And this is what also as Zimbabwe we are currently doing. Last week we had a workshop with the entire Chiefs Council in Harare, and they are more than eager to run with the program in as far as these methods are concerned, where conflict resolution is concerned. The Organ for National Healing is also working towards strengthening peace and reconciliation advocacy and program implementation through capacity enhancement and or sensitization of the aforementioned strategic key stakeholders in conflict prevention, management, resolution, and transformation. Turning to the history program, which is one of the programs that the organ is working on, the organ has also engaged historians from various universities to undertake research on the history of violent conflict in Zimbabwe. The scope of the project is to focus on the different epochs of Zimbabwe's history and the role of violence and anger in shaping the nation for purposes of informing our future by learning from the past. Again, I think in the presentations that were made in the afternoon, there was a linkage that was made between history and the transitional justice. And also, we have engaged in this program, which really shows that perhaps in Africa, the methods that we are using or we want to use in terms of conflict resolution are somehow similar. The organ has also engaged the ministries of education, sport, arts and culture, and higher and tertiary education to mainstream peace building in the curricula of the education system from the lowest to the highest level, and also to commission schools essay and art competition on an agreed topic on national healing, reconciliation, and integration. Just last week, we were giving out prizes to children that excelled in arts competition, in poetry, and on essays as we commemorated the International Day of Peace. where the organ also has collaborated with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, mainly again on the commemoration of the International Peace Day. Peace programs are also being pursued through the Ministry of Women Affairs, Gender and Community Development, in as far as women are concerned, and also the Ministry of Youth Development, Indigenization and Empowerment, and lastly the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises and Cooperative Development, just to mention a few. In concluding my presentation, we hope, as the Organ for National Healing, Reconciliation and Integration, that which we have mentioned in this presentation will inform and serve as a foundation to the Zimbabwe-specific national healing, reconciliation and integration approaches, which is informed by experience of other countries. We, in the group work, obviously, as we went out this evening, there was a question whether the experiences of Rwanda would apply in the Zimbabwean context. Some indicated that to a certain extent, and others indicated that it does not apply, particularly in the current political situation. But what we are also saying is that we are learning from the experiences of other countries without necessarily uplifting what they are doing and bringing it to Zimbabwe and using it as it is. It is hoped that the Zimbabweans in this regard will inclusively remain resolute and steadfast in our commitment to the national values and norms that define and preserve our nationhood, guided by the spirit of national unity, peace and reconciliation, founded by Unu Wedu, Ubuntu Wedu. As I close, I wish to seek your indulgence as I repeat one of our organ public messages that we normally use, and I ask that you repeat after me. Peace begins with me.
Peace begins with me.
Peace begins with you.
Peace begins with you.
Peace begins with us.
Peace begins with us.
I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Zimbe, for the overview. I think there has always been controversy and comments to the effect that the organ is not effective, but I think after this outline, it is clear that some work is being done. And the emphasis on traditional methods of resolving conflict just got me thinking to our Ugandan and Rwandese friends, just got me thinking of some of the methods here in Zimbabwe. We had a case in Gokwe where someone was killed. I think it's a case of political violence. Then I think what normally happens is that the families of the person who is murdered will do some traditional rites, and those who committed those crimes will have sleepless nights, you know, until some resolution is found, you know. Traditional means the families of the perpetrators and of the victims come together, they agree, and I think the family of Chokuda in Gokwe, they were given about 30 cattle, $15,000 US, and I think that the matter was resolved. So it's just one of the traditional means that is used here in Zimbabwe. Can I now call upon Dr. Undine Wande from the Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation in Cape Town for our keynote address.
So, distinguished guests, honorables, revered participants, and appreciated organizers, thank you very much for giving me the privilege to address you tonight and for engaging you, hopefully, in a moment of food for thought before we're able to finally put food in the stomachs. I was cheekily asking whether we could allow people to eat, but I was denied. So bear with me, and at least please eat the rolls while you can. And while we're setting up, I want to start with a quote from Ben Okri's A Way of Being Free, because I want to take you on a journey of a talk that is entitled Windows Across Time and the Search for What Really Matters. So I want to take us into the realm of approaching transitional justice from the perspective of memory and narrative. In a fractured age, when cynicism is God, here is a possible heresy. We live by stories, and we also live in them. One way or another, we are living the stories planted in us early or along the way. Or we're also living the stories we planted knowingly or unknowingly in ourselves. We live stories that either give our lives meaning or negate it with meaninglessness. If we change the stories we live by, quite possibly, we change our lives. And they are journeys across time and in time. And the understanding of time really matters to how we understand transitional justice. And I think could be given more due attention. In Western thought, our understanding of time is quite linear. We think that there's a past that's behind us, that there's a moment, which is the now, and a future, which is in front of us. In a lot of indigenous cultures, the understanding of time is quite different. The understanding of time is cyclic. There's a place from which I'm born, which is the same place to which I return, which is the same place from which the unborn come again to be among the living. Which means that as I'm living my life, I may be walking towards the future, but I'm always walking towards the past, because I'm always walking to join the ancestors. Which means the past is in front of us, not behind us, in that way of seeing the world. And when we're thinking about transitional justice, our understanding of what is the present and what is the past and what is the future and how they hang together is quite significant. I want to invite you to take a moment and to look at your hands, your very own hands. Take a moment and look at your hands and appreciate your hands. Served you well, maybe have given some tender touches to other human beings, which we're capable of. And just for a moment, give due respect to your hands. And then as you're contemplating, I put this picture up here of the hands of a lady named Cheka. Cheka lives in a small village just south of the Limpopo River. And she's a weaver. She's nearly 100 years old. And she's still busy day in, day out, weaving mats, baskets, etc. She's also the person who's probably the oldest person whose hand I've ever held. So I wanted you to contemplate for a moment, who is the oldest person whose hands you've ever held? Most likely this is a person who was born, I don't know, maybe in the late 1800s, maybe in the early 1900s, maybe it's your grandparents. Just think for a moment, actually, whose hand have I held? Who's really, really old? Perhaps the oldest person. And when were they born? Can you see someone arising in front of the mind's eye? Someone is coming. Just take another moment then and think of the hand of the youngest person that you've recently held. So most likely this is a baby. Yeah, or a child. Yeah, maybe your own child. Maybe someone's recently born child. This hand I've held. And then think if this person, this child, lives a full age, a mature age, perhaps 80 years, 90 years, even close to 100, What year will that be? What year will we have? Plus minus, I don't know, maybe 2098 or something like that? Just take a moment, take liberty for about 2-3 minutes to speak to your neighbor and just share who are these people. Who's the oldest person whose hand I've ever held? Maybe what have I learned from them? What did they mean to me? Very much. Thank you. Just take a moment and note how you're feeling right now and what your energy is like. Because the way the room just came alive now, if I was looking at your gestures, it really came alive. There was an energy there. That is the potential energy that transitional justice can evoke. An enlivening and a vibrant energy. There are people in peace building who are proposing that this is what we must do. We must start considering our current reality as a kind of 200-year present. Yeah? So our present reaching from the date of the birth of the oldest person who we've known to the date of the potential passing of the youngest person we're knowing. Because that's our connection into the past, a living connection, and our connection into the future, also a living connection. So we're actually living in about a time span of 200 years, which means across about 4 generations. So when we're asking where, when, how do we need to start, or when do we need to stop,